Hello, friends. I'm Anita Kulkarni, very pleased to welcome you to Forum Renu Foundation. This is our series, The Architecture of Arts. We have been exploring the various heritage Indian arts. We have visited so far the classical dances of Odissi, Kathak, Bharatnatyam. We have also explored the Hindustani classical music, and we have visited some folk arts and folk dances. Today, we visit another art, the art of designing structures and buildings, architecture. Architecture in the Indian context. Our guest today, architect Sunil Shelar, had the good fortune of spending 7 meaningful years under the wings of Mr. Correa early on in his career. It so happens that Sunil and I have been friends for over 4 decades because we studied architecture together in Mumbai in the 80s. I really look forward to chatting with Sunil to know about his journey in architecture, to know about his work and life, and of course, to know about Charles Correa. Architecture celebrated many, and conversely, many celebrated architecture, all through their work. Sunil Shelar, a Bangalore based architect, celebrates architecture, and he also celebrates a meditative individualism in a unique way. This episode is yet another visit to the fascinating field of Indian architecture as Sunil Shelar shares the finer points, the creative processes, and his early years under the wings of the legendary Indian contemporary artist and modern architect Charles Correa. This period in the late 1980s and 90s showed Sunil architecture in its deepest and highest dimensions. For Mr. Correa, this was an extraordinary period of scaling new heights, where each new project came like an award in itself by way of its banner and the potential to become a landmark or a monument. Correa was by far the most sought-after architect in India at the time, with top leaders, scientists, and industrialists pitching important projects to him. The projects that reflected the nation's new aspirations. As a young architectural graduate, Sunil worked on many of them in a close 360 degrees association with the Guru, observing, learning, and imbibing the values of Charles Correa, the path-breaking thinker. It was this period when Sunil built a foundation for the career he would soon embark on solo. In his own 3-decade tenure, Sunil completed a multitude of large projects in all typologies, like residential, institutional, industrial, defense, office parks, landscape, and more. The projects that involved sustained high-level client dealings, intense quality control, and bar charts. The Kirloskar-Toyota collaboration of a large factory project is an example. We will visit some of his works in this episode. Interestingly, this is just one side of Sunil Shelar. In his other side fall his other pursuits, like mountaineering, adventure biking, and scuba diving. Over the years, Sunil has led many high-altitude trekking expeditions in the Himalayas and has traversed India alone on the Royal Enfield, his beloved motorcycle. Sunil founded a biking club locally called Bangalore Bulls, where young men come together often for long and fearless joyrides on their bikes to explore India and to discover selves. They have found these experiences liberating, enriching, and life-changing. And lastly, it is painting and meditation that make a very special reflection of Sunil's deeper inward journey. I have known Sunil since college days, and it is a pleasure to present him on this platform as an architect and also as an artist who, among other things, steps aside the flow often for soul searching and rejuvenating, delving into the pauses and finding amazing gems in the process. Friends, let's invite Sunil Shelar in the studio. Hello, Sunil. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Anita and Renu Foundation. I'm really grateful to you people and all the viewers as well. Thank you so much.
So, Sunil, I know you have had a wonderful span in architecture and its practice. You have had a set of happy clients for a long time, and you have designed some very beautiful structures, big campuses, small houses, landscapes, and so many things. What are your inspirations when you design a building or when you are designing a project? What is guiding you?
It's a good question, Anita. Um, it is all your, whatever your influences have been there in the beginning, as you learned architecture in school and then you worked with a famous architect like Correa. Your mind is already reading uh, the script, sort of. So when a client approaches, you primarily look at his program, that is what he wants to construct, and then your response is automatically happens. It is not like x plus y is equal to z. It is something which evokes from within, and that has all kinds of instincts built in it.
Wow.
So you see a project, you see a program, and then you see the site, you see how the client is. The client's uh, attitude or his aspirations are very important to project. So my inspiration comes from there, from the site, climatically what the site is demanding, program what it demands, obviously, and then the client, what his aspirations are also. So it is not only true about the houses, it's also true about larger projects like institutional projects or industrial projects. If it is a singular client, then it becomes easier to connect with him and become a my idea is to become friends with my clients so that I get to know their inner feelings, inner aspirations, and
Wow.
then I something happens, wonderful thing happens inside the mind. And generally I have seen, it may be a surprise to you, but generally design just happens, you know design just happens, meaning many times whenever I show the first uh, proposal, up till now client has just liked it. I don't know how it happens, but I spend a little bit of time on getting my what do you call pointers correct, getting all the information right, and in every respect the design which is created fits into the all these parameters. So that is how my architecture happens.
Very nice.
Thank
We
you.
have just seen the slides, the drawings, and the photographs of many of your projects, and some of them are just outstanding. And I can see what you say. I would like to hear the story that you had narrated in one of our conversations. I think it was one of the first big projects. When I asked you, Sunil, tell us the high point, tell us the high point in your career early on. So you
Yes.
narrated that story.
Yeah, I think that was my one of my first big project. I was pure lucky to get that project. I can say, of course, to meet a client like Kirloskar and he offering you a project the first year of forming the company is unbelievable. But somehow I was there, I got the project, and rest is history. Today that project is stands for last 30 years, and we are still architects for that project. We still keep doing additional works. So it was great, great luck. Of course, the luck favors. You need to be, there at that point of time. So time and time matters a lot. Time and positioning. works a lot for you, for architects, I feel. To get a client like that who can, be satisfied and keep giving you work is very, very, what you can say, terrific in today's kind of world. So of course, we embarked on that project. I got the program. I presented the first drawing, and unbelievably, there were many directors sitting on the table, and Mr. Vikram Kirloskar himself was there, and we had a nice model made and plans. And I thought maybe, let me just take a shot at it. So I thought wild and created, as I had told you earlier, something which was, very basic, but yet very primordial and very apt for the site. And after presentation, everybody was absolutely silent. And as soon as my presentation is over, I looked at Mr. Kirloskar and he looked at me. He said, "There'll be one request: don't change the design." So that was so uplifting. Can you believe, the first project, big project in your hand, way back in 1990, and this is what happens to you. So that was a highlight.
Very nice. And these incidences are very morale boosting and confidence giving.
Absolutely, absolutely.
These clients, probably from 30 years, they are still with you. And so that is another virtue that I do want to discuss with you. To maintain these relationships, professional relationships where business is also involved. I mean, to keep friendships is one thing, but where business is in picture, there are the parameters are different, right? The different ways of working.
Very true.
So, this is this something you learned with your guru or mentor, or is it something in your personality? I mean, how does this work? Because this can be a great lesson for young aspirants.
That's a very good question. Again, what happened was that the training with Charles was very, very important. And I kept going to various sites with him, uh, had all kinds of conversations, and Charles never ever treated me as a junior. He would always introduce me as Mr. Shelar, architect. So that was, something so unique about him. And because of that kind of a practice or that kind of a influence, whenever I met my clients, I made this kind of a friendship with them. I knew that, if I have to do good architecture, I must understand the client. You see, understanding client is very important. And then fulfilling all his needs is also again important. And then keep a track of all the work which you have done, in the sense that even if the project is over, you keep going to the project, see that they don't have difficulties, maintenance issues, all kinds of engineering problems. So make that kind of a habit in your professional career to keep in touch. And sooner or later, they come back to you, they say, okay, we need to do this again, or we need to have another project. So then one, two, three, the series happens.
Right.
That is what has been my experience.
Sunil, you once said that if you want to meet Picasso, you need to go to a museum. You
Yeah.
cannot meet Picasso unless you go to a museum. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, Picasso here is like a metaphor or a symbol, you know. What I meant by that is that any kind of a art form, if you have to appreciate it, you can't just see a photograph of that. If you see a temple or a painting or a sculpture, you got to see, go there, meet that face to face, that art. And not only that, you need to understand where it comes from. Like when you say you have to see a Picasso, you have to be there. That means you got to understand his ethos, his uh, that era in which he performed. All that knowledge helps you to actually understand that particular painting, whatever it is. So that painting could be appreciated only when you have the entire knowledge of uh, behind you. So in a sense that architecture is something similar. You cannot just comment on somebody's architecture by looking at photographs. Charles would always say, go and visit as many places as possible, look at great architecture, experience it inside out, stay there morning, stay, see it in the night, see how it changes colors. And that is the only way you will be able to appreciate and then learn what architecture is all about. You cannot simply start uh, doing projects straight out of the school. You need to look at architecture.
This reminds me of the beautiful story associated with F.L. Wright when he was building the Arizona Taliesin. It is
Taliesin.
all desert, and when they were conceiving that campus, they actually pitched the tents in the desert, he and his bunch of apprentices, and they would just observe it in different seasons, at the day, at the night, at the afternoon, how the sun moves and how the night falls and how the seasons change. And that is what gave him
Influenced.
the insights into how to design it. So it's
True.
somewhat similar to what you just expressed. Very beautiful. Sunil, tell us something about your most interesting projects.
Of course, number of projects, but the one or two which, of course, we talked about. One was the Kirloskar Institute, which we just talked about it before. And because of Kirloskar's this project, and they liked my work, one day they invited me uh, to do a factory building. And I was, of course, very happy. But when I understood that this is not just any factory building, but it's a joint venture between Toyota and them, I was, over the moon. And this was such a big thing to happen to a young architect. Uh, they invited me to Japan. Toyota invited me to Japan. I could see Japan, which was my dream to visit Japan. I could see their factories inside out and see their working methodologies and how they, all their fantastic concepts toward a quality, just in, just out, and so many other qualities. Meaning they are built into their engineering. So me and Mr. Kirloskar went there. We signed the contract and came back to India, and then started working on this project. This project was so unique because there was a complete backup from Toyota engineers. We had estimated this project to be completed in about 18 months to 24 months because the project was huge. And these engineers came down, they sat with me, they sat with our consultants, and you won't believe that they gave us a deadline of 9 months. In 9 months, the project had to be not only started but complete, including the machinery setup. And I was wondering how they're going to do it. They sat on the site, the engineers, and we completed that project. It was one of my, till date, the best project, industrial projects.
Very nice.
A unique thing about this project was Japanese systems, they have a certain way of working on time schedules. And they transferred entire that knowledge to us. And we were asked to put everything within that format. And we saw that they interlink all the activities so well that and everything is decided right at the beginning, in the sense that we have, in Indian context, we are used to delays. We certain details we do later, certain drawings we do uh, at a later stage. Here they demanded everything right at the beginning, and that we were never used to, but we made an effort. We created complete set of drawings for architecture, engineering, mechanical, electrical, everything, structural, and the whole set was given at the site to the contractor so that he could plan entire schedule as per the timelines set up. So this was one of the great highlights of the project. And then later on, I imbibed that whole concept into other architectural projects, which I still do, and we still stick to it so that our projects are in that way absolutely time bound. And that is what clients love, because otherwise there always time overruns, cost overruns, which we can avoid.
Sunil, I remember you mentioning a forest that you created on a few acres of land with one of your clients. I know you had to convince him for planting the trees and creating that green belt. And I think it was based on some Japanese principles or philosophy. Why
Yeah.
don't you share that with us?
Well, when I did this Toyota project, and I was not knowing this particular system. There is a botanist called Miyawaki who had formed or invented a kind of a system where we can grow forests, actual forest, indigenous, of course, within a very short period of time. And this was surprising to me when one of the directors of Toyota, Japanese director, mentioned it to me. I was very curious. And next thing I know is Mr. Miyawaki himself coming down to India and creating a patch of forest for a Toyota project which we did. Recently, when I was doing an industrial project, I had this thought of recreating this particular forest there. There are two reasons. One was industry is some kind of abrupt intervention on earth. You see, a lot of negativity happens, production, all kinds of disposables, and it's a kind of a some kind of a hurt to the uh, earth itself. So I said I must do something which will sort of give back or fulfill that part, which we need to give back to the society. So, and this was also based in arid land, semi-arid land. So what we did was we convinced the client. Client was very nice. Now in this, here I would like to divulge a bit about clients. So clients have to be always cajoled, influenced, and somehow made to convince to spend money on these kind of aspects. And there, of course, lies your ingenuity. We studied Miyawaki methods. It's a unique method of forming grids. And before that, you have to select the plant based on the variety available in that region, grow them to certain level. So that took up a year of growing plants, selecting them. And here you select all kinds of plants. So Miyawaki method says that you have to have a canopy tree, which really goes up, and then there are secondary trees, then there are tertiary trees, then there are bushes, then there are creepers, weeds, all kinds of plants are selected, grown in the laboratory or at the site. And then when site has to be also, the soil has to be prepared. There is a Miyawaki method of preparation of soil. Then you plant them on a good season, uh, probably looking at monsoon, and plant them all of everywhere. Everything is planted at simultaneously, the entire 2 acres of land. And they were just small plants over 2 feet, 2.5 feet. Today, in 4 years, the 3.5 years, those plants have grown 18 feet, 20 feet. is a wonderful thing to watch, that something which you have created becomes actual forest. I could never believe it before that.
Sunil, I have been in touch with you and seen your work, and I have noticed that you are not seen much in the competitions or committees and the politics, what we can say, the big meetings called conventions. Is there any particular thought behind this?
Oh, that is good. Of course, there are lots of thoughts behind that. One is that I had seen all that happening when I was there with Charles for 7 years. Charles won maximum number of awards during that period, you see, and it was a very fertile period, very fertile. We did large projects in that time, and I was handling quite a few of them simultaneously. When I started on my own, my focus first was to do a very good architecture for, so that that satisfies me rather than anybody else. Of course, must satisfy the client, but more than that, it has to satisfy you totality. So that was my very much focus. I had that, and I did not actually look for any recognitions early in my, uh, because one thing is that kept getting projects after projects from the similar clients, and institutional projects, industrial, housing, you name it, we were doing it, you know, and that kept me completely busy on this path. And since I did not look anywhere else and put a focus on certain type of architecture, I did not do any commercial housing. Uh, so my focus was very clear on doing industrial, institutional, and that kind of work. And due to maybe luck or whatever you can call it, or maybe I was good at it, I kept getting those kind of projects. And recognition as such, I was never fond of. I thought true recognition for me is client saying, "Oh, what a wonderful job it has done," and the user saying, "This is a beautiful space." And that I got plenty. In every project we have done, people have again and again said that this is wonderful space. So that there you are.
I remember reading an article, I don't remember exactly where, but the title said it was magnificent architecture, not because of its proportions or details, but it was magnificent because people were happy. It has such a simple line that has stayed with me for years. And that is exactly what you are saying. That is great to know.
This is, of course, I am quoting Mr. Correa because Correa always said same thing, meaning what he would always say is that building has to be functional, and not just functional, it has to move something within you. When the client feels that, building is truly inspiring, enigmatic, evocative, then you have won the battle, not
Wow.
before that.
Wow. Sunil, in one of our conversations, I remember you mentioning a very interesting term called the forest nectar.
Yes,
Tell
I
us,
do remember.
tell us about it to our audiences.
Well, my other pursuits apart from architecture was to roam in the forest. I was truly a forest man. Before architecture, I did a lot of trekking, mountaineering, and I had roamed forest on my own sometimes, absolutely without any fear. What I found in those escapades is that you get kind of a relief from the day to day world, you see. And that is very important. When you keep doing architecture year after year, day after day, similar projects, you may get tired of architecture itself. So I always have taken pauses. Pauses are very important. And this pauses in the forest, I call it like a forest nectar, that gave me a lot of impetus, lot of strength, lot of joy, and some kind of a insight also, because the nature speaks to you all the time, and unless and until you experience it, you do not, and then that makes becomes a kind of a practice. So every now and then I have always taken this kind of a vacation, or and I have enjoyed that part. So pauses are very important in life.
Very beautiful. I think the term pauses is also very dear to me, very close to heart, because I feel that they are not only essential, they also take some sort of a courage, Sunil, to
It
step
is,
out
it is.
of the
It does,
flow,
does
step
take.
out of the flow, to put your meter down, because these pauses are essentially the time when you do not make money, but what you replenish is your
True, true.
vitality and soul and creativity,
Absolutely. I
and
agree with you.
rejuvenate yourself, and you come out of them stronger, and then you again merge with the flow. So that's like gathering energy outside the flow. So it is a very beautiful concept, and I have seen you practice it absolutely beautifully, and I want it to be an inspiration to especially the young members in our audience. So we will come to this subject specifically in the last segment of our show.
Yes,
um,
here one more thing I would like to add for a moment is that, you shouldn't look at growth for growth per se. Growth per, because see what happens in that aspect is you get so entangled into this aspect of growth, and it may fetch you money, it may fetch you stature, but it does not actually truly satisfy you. So satisfaction comes from doing certain type of architecture, certain amount of architecture, enjoying it thoroughly, and move on. You see, so that has been my personal strategy about architecture, and it has really helped me till now. Last almost 35 years of own
Very,
practice.
very beautifully said. So, Sunil, you worked with the legendary architect, Mr. Charles Correa. Not for a short time, you worked with him for a good long 7 years when you were right out of college. How did you see him? How did you understand him as a person, as an architect? Tell us.
Oh, Korea is, for me, he is the guru, um, nothing less than that. Now, to understand Korea in totality is absolutely impossible. He's like a vast ocean, you see. It's very difficult to fathom the depths of his mind. He used to be a great, you can say, a teacher, a companion, guru, philosopher, all rolled into one. All rolled into one. He was absolute live wire in the office. People would be scared of him. Somehow, our relationship really blossomed. Uh, the way I went to his office was I was before him. I was with Uttam C. Jain, another very famous architect, and he was my jury for final year. And then he invited me to join the office. And I was straight away working on a very important exhibition that time. People were putting up called Festival of India, supposed to travel abroad. And because I was good at sketching, drawing, I did few panels for Mr. Jain. And one of the meetings, all these people were there, including Mr. Correa, Pupul Jaikar, Pravina Mehta. And Charles admired my drawings. And next thing I know is invitation to see his office. And he offered me a job. I immediately, of course, joined. It was 1st September. And as soon as I joined, there was a big celebration. I was wondering, what is this celebration about? It was Charles's birthday, of course, 1st September. So it was a nice occasion. And then, of course, the friendship flourished, or Guru Shishya, whatever that relationship flourished. He had innate confidence in me. And within a short span of 6 months, I was given to handle Vidhan Bhavan Bhopal as a very massive government project. On that project, I really understood him. That is coming to your question. He had this capacity to think really out of the box and on a massive scale. Massive scale. And he could integrate functions, art, context, traditions. You name the influences, he could easily marry them together. And his architecture would be totally unique. He was playful in his architecture. It was not like bourgeois kind of an architecture, which many of his contemporaries practiced. He was influenced by something totally unique. He looked at Indian traditions from a different perspective altogether. Though the traditions were same, he brought it, gave new meaning to it. He used, if you see Vidhan Bhavan, he has used 9 square, converted that into a circular kind of a space, and 9 square has the 9 different functions. And it's a unique building in the overall Indian panorama, architectural panorama. It's a path-breaking project. So he has this fantastic ability to transform buildings into living art form.
Wow.
Charles always looked at his buildings, and he would always say that there has to be 3 things without which architecture is nothing. One is landscape, color, and the sculpture. So with these 3, architecture becomes complete.
With industrialization and the movement in art and architecture called modernism, came new design concepts and new revolutionary building materials like glass, steel, and reinforced cement concrete, changing the face of the built form forever. In India, modernism coincided with the independence. The potent and powerful country was just beginning to inhale freedom and feel its spirit. The canvas was blank, and the dreams were rising on the horizon. It was the embryo time for the identity and persona of the country. While modernism was wonderful, it had a downside to it. It made construction lightweight and affordable, and schedules flexible, but it induced a placelessness in architecture. A modern high rise, for example, in Shanghai, Chicago, or Sri Lanka, no more had a reason to appear different. Supported mechanically in 100%, it drew nothing from the surroundings. The poetry in the local culture, tradition, and climate, defining the forms and writing the local story, was lost. On this background, the work of certain sensitive architects in India became particularly noteworthy. Charles Correa, an architect and contemporary artist born in India in 1930, is known for his modern architecture. Correa is celebrated for his extraordinarily dramatic spaces. Rejecting the glass and steel approach, he revived the use of traditional methods and materials, focusing on designs that are deeply rooted in local cultures. His physical forms beautifully reflect the intangibles like places, people, even a society, and his style has an amazing global resonance. With concepts based in the rich history and geography, his deeply moving spaces are an experience in rhythm and three-dimensional surprise. His architecture beautifully responds to the changing light through openings and punctures that not only add tremendous visual interest but also provide a relief of sorts. In Correa's own words, museums can be a very tiring experience, and only tourists have the energy to go through them. Museums must have spaces where the eyes can rest, maybe a courtyard or a garden. Correa's buildings masterfully create the courtyards he calls the empty centers, around which evolves his architecture. The stark and austere beauty, devoid of conventional ornament, is enhanced by accent colors, human and relatable scales, and finishes that employ local materials and motifs. The use of brick and mortar instead of glass and steel make it earthy, almost traditional, as opposed to typical postmodernism. His color palette almost always draws from the subtropical earth tones and vibrant primaries and secondaries instead of English pastels. Highest national and international recognitions and professional awards, including the prestigious Padma Vibhushan from the President of India, honored Mr. Correa, whose career spans across rich 5 decades, creating outstanding architecture in India and in the world.
Correa is probably one of the greatest thinkers I have ever met. He was truly very spiritual on a different dimension altogether. We haven't yet processed all what he has achieved. We haven't yet processed it. From his meditative Gandhi Smarak at Ahmedabad early in his life and to his most recent Champlimont at Lisbon, Portugal, his work spans a huge canvas, which I haven't seen anywhere in other people's work in India and even abroad. He would say that we are only as big as the questions we address.
Wow.
You have to address certain kind of a questions. Your architecture is not just simple. He did town planning, Mumbai, New Mumbai, and he was a thinker on that level. So he always would say that you are as big as the questions you are addressing, you see. So he did address those questions. Now his effort to develop New Mumbai were unique. This is Vidhan Bhavan, my first project when I joined Charles Correa's office.
Have you actually done this drawing?
I have done almost 100 drawings on this project myself. And you remember those times there was no computer, they were all hand drawn,
Okay.
hand drawn drawings.
Wow.
And I'm so proud. I still have copies of these drawings with me.
You should be proud. So,
Well, Vidhan Bhavan was has a lasting impression on me because as I joined Charles's office just out of college, I was put on this particular building to work on. I did a lot of drawings. I visited the site, sat with consultants, worked on the engineering aspect of it. This is, of course, Jawahar Kala Kendra in Jaipur. This is the library. This is a unique project again. We had Charles had worked on a model of Jaipur, which was built by Maharaja Jai Singh, and the model depicts 9 squares, and 1 square moved because of the hills. That is the city planning. He brought in the same concept here. These are the murals done by local artists. This is a cosmos, painted cosmos, the on the ceiling of the admin block.
mhm. So this was Jawahar Kala Kendra was an art museum or an art gallery?
It is a art museum. Yes, it's an art museum depicting various arts from Rajasthan. The center, what you see right now in this slide, is open to sky. It's a kund, or a place where things could be performed. So the middle circular area is where the dances perform, plays are performed, and people sit around the whole middle expanse, which is again um, reflects the sun god.
I can see why Charles' spaces were regarded as extraordinarily dramatic. See the punctures and see the proportions
Yes.
and see the colors, the accents that the blue is adding.
Yes, about the colors, I would like to say something here that
Yes.
the whole plan is on 9 planets, Navagraha, and each planet depicts a certain color. So those are the colors given to a certain uh, box. Not only the concept, the colors, the arts, because being an art museum, it celebrates not only the arts, traditions, the local colors, local materials are all got together here. And you can see from this particular slide that how the Navagraha mandalas are used in the particular planning.
Right.
This is, of course, the admin block, the dome over the admin block.
And that is taken from the stupa, the profile.
That is taken from stupas.
How beautiful the shades, the sciography.
Yeah, this is where I we worked together on this, and for me, it was one of the most joyous part of the entire journey with Korea. This is Korea House in Bangalore, which we started building in '86, finished in '88, and we moved our Charles moved his office here in '88. I brought along with me, there were 5, 6 people who came here, and we started Charles's office. And Charles came and stayed. Charles and Monica, both of them came and stayed in this house. So this was house come office. But this, of course, this was one of the most unique projects of his. The wood is all paduk wood, red wood from Andamans. The floor is red and very unique spaces. It is again built around the courtyard, very traditional. There is a small kund built out of local granite, and we had this wonderful studio going up the steps, and all kinds of wonderful people we would meet here uh, every day almost.
So in the finishes, we see the very traditional Indian finishes, right? Like the wood,
Yes.
the the flooring is probably in situ concrete, is it?
It was just a red oxide flooring, what you call here as in situ red oxide flooring.
So pigmented concrete, right?
Pigmented, yes, pigmented, actually not concrete. It's a layer of red oxide mixed with slurry, cement slurry,
Hmm.
and laid over a rough base. And then lot of work is done later on. It has to be properly troweled and then polished. And it takes automatic polish. You don't have to polish as such. As you use it, it becomes better and better.
So is it
In my
called
house,
gotai in the native language? Is that the same?
yes, correct. In Kannada, of course, I don't know what it is called, but that is the correct word what you used.
Gotai.
Yes,
Yeah.
and most of the furniture was out of packing wood. Old doors were used from his old house. So several of the imagery, several of the remembrances are brought here. And Charles would always do that in his project. He would bring something and put in a new context, give it a new meaning. So you can see those doors with that circular glasses. Those were all old doors from project earlier, an
What
old
I see
project.
is the magic in the proportions and the spatial poetry, which is so uncommon. And
Oh,
it,
he was a master poet. He could do anything with the spaces. Spaces were like like a butter with him. He could mold them any way he want. He was absolute master.
right.
This is the central courtyard around which all the places revolved. We have dining at that end. We had office at this end, entrances, and then upstairs was the studio. Other side was Charles's living quarters, his master bedroom, kitchen, dining,
Yeah.
etc. Beautifully organized spaces.
I remember to be visiting this place. Of course, it was not the Korea house, but it was Fab India. And I remember I have a very vivid memory of all the tropical species like plumeria, the frangipani, the bamboo, and the
Yeah.
plants that he has used in landscape. They're very beautifully subtropical, tropical. So they really enhance the structure and the spaces.
Yeah, of course, a section across the house. You could see the courtyards
Yeah.
and the upper studio. Very beautiful proportions,
Wow.
simple planning, yet very profound,
Very
very
profound.
evocative.
Very evocative. Yeah. Wood building.
He could do that very easily.
Very nice, Sunil. So this is the Pune University Ayuka.
A great astrophysicist, Mr. Narlikar, approached him to develop this particular center in Pune. This is located in Pune University. Wonderful site. And Charles really addressed this project so beautifully. He built in traditional form, and yet he involved all kinds of um, astrophysicists vocabulary. So here he would always say that all the scientists, Narikar and Kimbhavi, they gave him lot of inputs, and those are the inputs which he used in developing spaces. So if you see, the courtyards are very unique. This is here the dome, the entrance, where you could see. If you see the dome, it has got small fenestrations, small openings, and those actually depict the constellations, and they are small openings through the dome,
Hmm.
and it took a lot of effort to design that, and colors and art.
Yeah.
He could bring in everything together, and that is how his architecture is so evocative, so appealing to even common man. You don't have to address only the intellectuals.
Sunil, that was an amazing segment to visit the very special projects that you worked on. And thank you for sharing. Now, we so much want to know from you about Mr. Correa. How was he as a person? How was he as a boss and a mentor?
He was perceived as a tough boss. There were stories I've heard, and I have seen one or two incidences where he would get really upset and come to your table and literally pull that drawing and tear it off. And that was difficult because those drawings were hand drawn and not like today with the computers I used. And you had to do the entire effort all over again, you see. So, but these were incidents absolutely very few. And that is how the architecture speaks about it, right? You can't be, you have to be that kind of a perfectionist.
I remember you narrating his story of his an excellent judgment by the eye, just by the naked eye. I mean, he would not need the plumb or the water level to check the levels.
Yes.
Tell us
There is,
that.
of course, this particular incidents. We would travel often to Bhopal to oversee this project. And once we were driving up, project was just started construction. It had reached first or second stage. And there is this unique feature in the project where there is one freestanding column which goes to 30 feet. And that was, a kind of a standalone column just for the effect. Uh, and we were driving up the hill, and this column has been completed maybe 10 feet. And Charles looks at it from about a half a kilometer or probably nearer. And he says, Sunil, look at that column. I said, wonderful. What wonderful? He says, that column is out of plumb. I couldn't believe my ears, that such a far away distance he could still judge. I said, anyway, he is talking. But of course, I had great respect for his, acumen. So we went up, and first thing he goes to that particular column, and he asked contractor to set up the plumb. And believe me or not, it was out of plumb. And next thing is, Charles was very, we can say cruel or whatever, but he was very methodical. He says, you have to break the pillar down. And that's what it was done. But the thing is that he could judge it from such a far distance. So I asked him, he says that you will get it in practice. And then another incident happened after a few, probably weeks. We were again going to Vidhan Bhavan. And this time Charles wanted to go by train. He would love trains, I must tell you that. And he had working models of trains in his house, and trains would go all around his house. Uh, and he was really like a child, would go around those trains. So he would, we would stop at every station and see the locomotives and this and that. Anyway, another very important special person was traveling with us was Mani Kaul. Mani Kaul is a very famous film director, and he was also assistant director to a very famous Satyajit Ray. So he narrated one incident while during our journey. So when I told him about my experience with Korea's perfection and acumen, he said, "Look, we were editing one film, and Mr. Ray, myself, and the cameraman were rolling it. And at one point, Ray pointed, says, stop here. Then he adjusted the frame, and he said, go back 8 frames, cut 2 frames, connect, and run again." So Manikal was dumbfounded. He says, I don't know what is, he didn't feel or read or see anything wrong in this entire sequence. And the cameraman did whatever he said, and they rolled. And then Satyajit Ray looks at him, turns to him and says, did you understand the difference? So I was wondering, what he was going to say. He said, look, the audio was out of sync. See, audio and video has to connect, you see. So the acumen of Satyajit Ray here could perceive that very minute gap between audio and video. And then he said, yes, now it's perfect.
Yeah, that is the sense for perfection, right?
Perfection. And that comes. And today, similar thing happens with me. The client knows, my client also knows, or contractors, that when Mr. Shelar shows something is wrong, we don't argue, we just do it.
Very nice.
So, well, he was a multidimensional personality. He had interests, all kinds of interest in Western classical, Indian classical, arts, music, drama, and he had, you know, developed all kinds of facets. Truly, I haven't seen such a complex man. He would draw very well, not perfectionist, but his sketches would be very evocative, like that of Corbusier. He would draw something, but that would tell you exactly what he meant. Apart from his, belief that he was very tough boss and very, at least with me, we always shared a very good relationship. He was very gentle, very humane. He took me wherever he went, never made me feel that I am a junior. You can imagine such a towering personality and such a famous personality. He had Padma Vibhushan and RIBA Gold, and you name the awards he has won. Yet, with me, we would talk like friends, and that was absolutely unique. He had, of course, a very queer sense of humor as well, and which needed for me to develop that kind of a appreciation for that kind of a humor, and very sometimes very ironic, sometimes very direct, and sharing anecdotes of other architects with me and stories meeting, so. And other part was in his office, because of his personality, all kinds of people would visit. The artists, famous directors like Mrunal Sen, famous artists like Lakshman Shrestha, famous architects like Geoffrey Bawa and Japanese architects, and so on and so forth. And the whole atmosphere was of constant upheaval. Upheaval in the sense, uh, interest, all kinds of drama happening. Uh, and Kamal Hadkar is our structural consultant, and so on, so many and so forth. People would be visiting. Raj Reval, not Raj Reval, sorry, Mahindra Raj, the structural consultant from Delhi, unique personality. So we would meet all these kind of people, and there was to be a very good interaction, thinking, thinkers interaction. It was a wonderful period in my life.
You had exposure into that satsanga of all these gifted
Yes,
talented intellectuals, and I remember you mentioning MF Hussain doing the paintings for Charles
yes,
Correa,
yes, yes.
the church,
He
right?
did. He did work for Portuguese church in Dadar. The ceiling has been painted by none other than great MF Hussain.
I think you were
So
really blessed to have that,
absolutely,
witness that glory of interaction. You are,
absolutely.
yeah.
And visiting with him in various sites, going to Chennai to meet MRF bosses, you know, Maman Mapillai, and then going to Karnataka to meet Ramakrishna Hegde would often visit the office, chief minister. Then again going to Hyderabad and meeting the great N.T. Ramarao, or that incident in Rajasthan where we met, presented Jawahar Kala Kendra to then CM. Uh, and there is a very interesting episode there. Can I narrate it?
Absolutely, I remember that episode. You must narrate it.
That we were the people, me and Charles went to present Jawahar Kala Kendra in the cabinet meeting. And Charles was absolutely eloquent, and he presented with his great aplomb, flooring all those people. Of course, they didn't even understand what he was talking about. He went above their head almost. But for me, it was a great education, you see, how to deal with uh, clients and other people. So as we finished, of course, it was a great design, and I personally like that as one of his best. At the end of the session, urban minister, whoever was there, asked Mr. Correa, this is, sir, it is beautiful, very nice, but can we have an alternative? And I knew that bomb is going to burst. I looked at Charles, he looked at me, he said, just pack up. We rolled the drawings, took the model, and walked out of the cabinet meeting. Without uttering a word, he walked out of the cabinet meeting. We just came out and looked at each other. He said, let it go to hell. Let's go to Amer. And we traveled to Amer. And then, of course, the project was eventually sanctioned as it is, got built. Beautiful project.
But somebody was waiting for you at the hotel to. Uh,
Oh, yes, of course. Next day, we were going to be in also in Jaipur for some other meeting. There was a meeting with then uh, the Maharaja of Jaipur, Mr. Bhavani Singh. But when we came back to the hotel, Chief Minister himself was there to apologize and to hand over the project.
that is quite an incidence, but it also tells us. I don't personally read it as a statement of arrogance. I think it's asserting self, and it's just a healthy ego. If you have done your work,
It's
and
not an egoistic thing. I think belief in yourself, belief that whatever you have done is perfectly good. And we knew, of course, they don't know anything about architecture. So sometimes, these government project, this is what happens, that there is no client. And that is what Charles always knew about that. He said there is no client, and we do whatever we feel like doing. But since there is no client, many times people tend to go overboard, and things can happen for the
you mean
sake of.
you mean there is no client, but there is a committee, and it is not necessarily a very homogeneous committee.
In such a specialized, such a evocative art form, architecture, it's very difficult to grasp at first go. And just from the drawings and model, it's very difficult to even understand what he's talking about.
Hmm. So
People
how
look at
is,
it, maybe the building will be
yeah.
standard,
Right.
boxes, this and that. But when you come out with such a footprint, which is absolutely dynamic, people can't digest it. That is the problem.
So this is actually raising a very important point, that it is all to do with the awareness and the taste in arts, right? If that good taste does not prevail, or it's not common among people or in the audience, how do they know good from bad? And then how is the good supported or lifted? And how does it make a statement? How does the entire taste elevate itself? So it's a deep subject, but needs to be addressed somehow. Sunil, we come to the third segment of the session of our presentation, and this segment looks at your other facets and your other pursuits, which are away from architecture. Well, in a way they are away, but in a way all of this is connected and interlinked. And we have already talked about the inspirations, the pauses, the need for pauses, and the
Correct.
forest nectar. So now we come to the specifics. I want to hear from you your about your adventure biking.
Well, adventure has been part and parcel of my life since, of course, childhood. At the age of 14, 15, I started mountaineering. I became an ace mountaineer, was part of two mountaineering groups in Mumbai, made a number of expeditions all around Maharashtra. So that is where the adventure started. Later on, my trekking still continued. And though I was doing architecture with Korea and then later on my own, I would always venture out, do trekking, and had all these kind of activities, which kept me not only fit but mentally agile. When I say mentally agile, um, I did not get, kind of fixed, mm, say, routine. I always broke out of the routines and enjoyed these extra uh, adventural pursuits. Later on, since last 10, 12 years, I am doing motorcycle, adventure motorcycle riding, and I really truly enjoy it. It's a sport which is, people say, perceived as a dangerous sport, but I have been now going to Ladakh almost every year, and just couple of years back, I did something called K2K, that is Kanyakumari to Kashmir, on a bike. Three-fourths of it was a solo ride, and then rest with some friends.
Amazing. I know you have a group formed in Bangalore where you live called Bangalore Bulls or something.
Yes, I founded Bangalore Bulls in 2011 or 12, and since then we have been with some friends, much younger, of course, half my age. I I do adventure biking,
That is
motorcycling.
must be a fabulous experience out in the
It
open
is. It
and
is.
very
It is.
liberating. Very liberating.
It is. And of course, it is not at all dangerous, is what I feel. The way you ride, the kind of cautions you take, the kind of gear you wear, and discipline is very important in these pursuits. Very
Yes,
much.
we
And
will
of
see
course,
that film.
fitness, overall fitness, mental fitness, and of course, physical fitness is very important.
Great. We will see that film where your colleagues also speak about what these rides do to them in terms of the liberation and the freedom and the health and the exploration. So wonderful work. I must congratulate you. Kudos to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Bikes, if not loudly, okay, at least at the beginning of the ride we tell, okay, come on boy, we just do it.
Very, very primal. You and your bike, you become one, and you think that you can conquer the world.
You have this connection with your bike, uh, which makes you feel completely out of the city chaos.
I do communicate with the bike sometimes. If the riding is very good, yes, it's there is some amount of talking done. It's not very loud, not very. Then it's inside your helmet.
So the bike is your biggest trust element.
The ride conditions vary for different terrain.
Things do get tough. They get very.
It is very beautiful. Due to the refraction, when the sunlight falls in the lake, it turns absolutely blue. I think that is nature at its best.
Once you sight it, you very immediately you stop your bike.
There are things you can take pictures of, and there are things that you can talk about. But when you see it with your own eyes, that's a different ball game altogether.
When I'm riding, I feel like I'm free of those conflicts. It's only me and my bike and the group.
It can change you inside out.
It's not at all about the destination. We are much more happier if you don't reach there, because again you get to ride again to achieve that next day morning.
I have this fancy of bulleting specially from my childhood because my father was in the army and I am used.
You mentioned the different peaks in Maharashtra, but I know you have been going to the Kailas and Manasarovar and the Himalayas and repeatedly, and right.
Yes.
So that must have
It had
been
been my passion to trek in Himalayas. I had almost done all kinds of forts in Maharashtra, but later on I had this opportunity to be associated with one mystic from Rishikesh who stayed in Upper Himalayas, and so he would take me along, and we did several high altitude treks in Himalayas. Several of them. I have done Gomukh, Tapovan, Kedartal, and those kind of very high, very difficult, invigorating treks in Himalayas in
Wow.
difficult weather. Uh, but they were again enjoyable, very enjoyable. Though they look difficult, but when you are there at the top of Tapovan, or when you're facing Bhagirath, facing Shivling Peak, and face to face, it's some amazing experiences. I think people should definitely venture out. There is so much to see, and you learn out of this. You see, it's not that they are fruitless. They have immense, that experience gives you immense ability, and expands your what you call mind, certain faculties of mind. I have been truly lucky to do this with this age, yeah, senior citizen. I'm still trekking.
That's amazing. Keep it up.
Thank
And
you.
and once again, I mean, I cannot stress or emphasize this enough. The importance of these uh, breakouts, these escapes,
Yes,
what they do to one's psyche and the mind, and in
yes.
terms of refreshing it and sharpening it, sharpening your faculties, keeping your sensitivity and sensibility alive and thriving. So these pauses are just, they just do an amazing job in keeping you going.
I 100% agree with you, Anita, on this. 100%.
That's right.
And you should not be shy of adventures. Anybody and everybody could do it. Recently, I started scuba diving. I thought I have seen the peaks, Himalayas. I must go down and see what is ocean has to give us. And it is so amazing. If you have time, sometimes I'll take you to the Andamans, and the seas around are so crystal clear, and you can see and touch the the sea world, and just 10 feet below, 20 feet below, amazing world is there.
Amazing
You
vista.
cannot even imagine.
Wow. Sunil, we have seen the public side of your life. We have seen the semi-public side of your life. Now, this is the time to peek into the private zone of your mind and life. I know you are a good painter. You have so many paintings in your basement, and most of them, if I'm not mistaken, are all Himalayas. The images
Yes.
of Himalayas. So, talk to us about your paintings.
Well, painting happened recently. I, of course, could always draw well since my childhood. We are gifted, the family is gifted painters. Painting has been recently, I started in pandemic. Pandemic has been actually good to me in many ways. Um, and I, of course, had visited these places in my mountaineering career and biking career. So I always wanted to recreate it in terms of paintings. I have a lot to do. I have many more canvases lying with me. And in my very special gufa, which is down there below this house, I have a whole lot of artwork created during this particular year. So that is where the art has generated in this particular tough people on everybody, a tough say life for everybody in pandemic.
Very true. I have found also painting very relaxing in general because it is an inward looking hobby, but
Yes.
extremely relaxing, and it's a great pause. So we pretty much come to the conclusion of the presentation, Sunil, but it is incomplete unless and until I touch the very special aspect of you, which has been the philosophy and the deeper spirituality. Now, I know you from college days, and you always had that profound philosophic or spiritual side to you, which changed its personas over the years, but you still remain deeply philosophic. I know you have read Buddhism, you practice Vipassana, you also guide people, and I just want to know from you how that tenor, how that thread has always been with you and how it has helped you in everything that you are doing so beautifully.
Oh, well, that is my life story, of course. My earliest remembrance is maybe very, when I was very young, about 4 or 5 year old. Early morning, I had always get up very early in the morning, and my father would be sitting reading a holy book, chanting, murmuring in his mind, and this small lamp burning. So that was my first memory, and it has, still alive, and that made me somehow, or probably I was drawn to, because of him, to the inner journey. I was wondering, what he does. I used to ask him, talk to him. Then slowly this uh, got, uh, you know, it found its root in me. When I was 18, 20 years old, though I was doing all kinds of adventure, the forest had a great effect on me. I would wander in forest all by myself, and my parents would be extremely worried. Yet I had no fear, and that I would sit in the forest. I would, soak in all that atmosphere. That made me more inward looking. Introspection happened, and through that I came to first Vivekananda's books. I read them thoroughly at the age of 20, 21, when I joined architecture college. I met my first guru. Very early in my life, I started reading great thinkers such as Vivekananda, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Ramana Maharshi. That gave me a focus to work on my inner strengths, or you can say inner journey. We are all here, as we know that it is not just this life, but something larger than life uh, is happening. Some kind of a quest is there within us, all of us, and though many times we overlook it, it keeps beckoning. So I addressed it. I went looking for it, and I went through various adventures, inner adventures, we can say, for several years, right from my college days till now. That thread is continuous. That is the backbone, or you can say that is the that supplies the energy to me, to
Wow.
all my pursuits, my architecture, and my friendships, long drawn friendships with my uh, school champs, till architectural friends, people like you, all kinds of intellectuals. That binds it all together. The inner quest not only enriches your life, but it gives you certain kind of focus to do good. Finally, we are here to do good, you see.
Wow.
And through architecture, through these inner pursuits, if you can become a good human being and make others understand this aspect, and if you can make certain little change in their lives, that gives so much joy. That is what I found during this pandemic, when I started talking to people, understanding their problems, and sharing my experiences with them of this journey. That became a wonderful, what you can say, uh, quest again,
Yeah.
another kind of a
Yeah.
quest.
Yeah.
And that continues. That
Wow.
continues, and I'm sure that many will benefit through
Wow.
this process.
Wow.